Sunday afternoon against Magpies. Pretty important game in the context of the season.
Yeah, it's a pretty important game. I mean, I don't come across a game that hasn't been important yet, and so it's an important one. I mean, obviously a team that's absolutely red hot form, so it'll be a big challenge. We had some terrific tussles with them last year a couple of times, and another one this week. So looking forward to trying to keep improving as a team against one of the best.
How much more effort do you put into someone like Nick Dacos?
Look, obviously he's one of the form players of the competition. They've got plenty of them. If you look at their experience in their midfield right across the board, and from side bottom to Adams to Pendlebury will probably come back right across the board. They've got some real experience in there, and a guy like Dacos can go anywhere. So they've got some real flexibility in their team. He's one of many that we'll be looking at, and but also making sure that we get the balance of what we do right as well.
They've got this Kings of the comeback tag. How dangerous does that make a side like that who just believes that they're never beat?
Yeah, they've obviously got a system, but they've also got a belief, and their record at being behind at three-quarter time and coming over the top of teams stands out. There's no question about that. They're very good at it, and once it keeps happening, they've reinforced that over the journey, and they did it again last week. So, that's a credit to the way they play, the way they've been coached, and we just got to be mindful of making sure that when you play Collingwood, like every team, you've got to play to the 120-minute mark. You can't afford to play to the 100-minute mark, and particularly against the Pies.
Craig's mentioned in the past, and you just mentioned it seems like they just believe, but there is a system around it. What have you identified about that system that you can use when the game gets late on the weekend?
Well, there's some specifics to it. I won't go into all the details. But they've I think it's underpinned by great run and belief, and that allows the system to work. And so, they've got the ability to be able to do that. But their contest is their average contested ball per game is almost double number 2 on the list. So, most importantly, they're very good and strong in the contest, and so they're able to keep being consistent at winning their contests all over the ground. And that's one of the things they're good at, no matter what part of the game.
You've 4 losses so far this year. 2 of you've been up at three-quarter time. How do you address that sort of thing, especially against a side like Collingwood?
Yeah, we've had a couple of times there where we've been 20 odd points up at halfway through the last, and on the weekend there have been different things at different times. We've dropped away in our contest, and on the weekend we just gave some simple goals away and weren't efficient going forward. That's been a bit of a pattern. We've, if you look at our inside 50s, for instance, we're up with Collingwood as far as getting the ball inside our forward 50. We're not as efficient as what we should be going forward in the losses, and we've been holding teams to low inside 50s against, but we've given some simple goals away. Part of that's player availability, part of it's youth, part of it's keep learning and system and things like that we need to keep teaching our players. So it's a combination of a number of things. The positive is our pressure's been strong, as is Collingwood. That's been I think we're both top 4 for the year in that. We've been getting the ball inside our forward half and stopping the opposition getting generally over the course of the year. So there's some positives that we can work on. We need to be more consistent in the contest like Collingwood have been over the journey, and that's our challenge as well.
You talked about player availability. I know you don't want to make excuses because no secret going to work, especially if you're back. What are the challenges been like playing players in different roles? I guess, especially Nick Blake is a key forward, and then Ollie Flying.
Yeah, it's part of it. I think that's just part of it, whether it's any part of the ground. But down back, we've had 3 of our starting 6 defenders out for a couple of weeks, and on the weekend it's obviously we wouldn't Robbie Fox or Rampy would have been great for Toby Green, but when you haven't got those guys, you look at those opportunities. Sometimes they can be really costly learning exercises like they were in the weekend, but they're learning exercises as well. We're out to win and learn. We don't want to lose and learn. But on the weekend, there were some things that we looked at in that last 3 or 4 minutes of the game that we didn't get right. It was probably started a bit further out than that, and great to have those personnel, Rampy or or Fox to play on those guys, but when they're not there, we still have an opportunity to get things done and get things sorted. So that's what we need to keep focusing on, is the players we have got and how we actually keep teaching them.
You talk about learning experiences and how much it's a good bit to have those back in the side. Later in the season, when they do come back in, how much does that then change the versatility with players and have
Yeah, we sort of, there's obviously ripple effects throughout the team when you have the team selection. I mean, Fox may be available this week, we're not sure. Rampy's still some time away, and there's still a couple of key position players that are down the track. So we're not sure what that looks like this week, but mainly we're not focused on what happens back at the end of the year. We're focused on what happens on last week and this week, and very much looking at what the Pies are doing and how we can counteract that and play to our strengths.
John, there's a major announcement set for this afternoon on the 19th team. Thoughts about that?
Yeah, look, I obviously haven't been involved in the pointy end of that, so got a few other things we're looking at. But I think that from the club's perspective, the club's always been supportive of a team in Tasmania, and so from a broader club's view, that's always been the view. What we're mindful of is there's 1/3 of the population of Australia's populations in New South Wales, yet 1% play AFL football. Let's not take our eye off what's happening here in New South Wales, in the most competitive sporting market in the world, and we're focused on Tasmania, and which is terrific. But if you've got 1/3 of the population sitting here in New South Wales and only 1% playing AFL football, I think we need to do a bit of work in that space.
Do you think it should be a priority for the new CEO, Andrew, coming in?
He's got plenty of priorities. I'm sure there's no lack of priorities.
Where does that 1% then sit on his? Where should it sit on his priority?
Well, I just think it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, this is the most competitive professional sporting market in the world, and the other sports are, obviously doing really well in this space, and it's a challenge for both us and GWS and the code in general to keep pushing ahead. Well, I think we've made some great gains in New South Wales. I mean, look at school level, the participation rates, all of that. But it's a real challenge to keep that up. And just looking at pure numbers, if you look at the percentage of population versus the percentage of players playing AFL footy, it needs work, and it will continue to need long-term work and long-term investment. And when we start getting New South Wales players being drafted by other clubs and then coming back home, like happens to all the other football states, what a great challenge that'll be for the game. That'll be one of the great things for all clubs. But we can't lose sight of the fact that there's so much potential here in New South Wales that still remains untapped.
Do you think the Team 19, the Team 20 even, is getting talked at the moment, that could be a distraction from what they're actually trying to build here?
Well, I hope not. It's not a question for me. It's a question for the AFL and the AFL Commission about their long-term investment in football in New South Wales. And there is investment, but the investment needs to be long and ongoing. And if we're a truly national competition, it's great to have Tasmania in, but it's also, we need to make sure that we do things right. And do things fully invested in states like New South Wales and Queensland.
Let's ask you about some other personnel issues. I know Tommy Hickey wasn't on the list when the injury report came out.
Yep.
What's his week look like? What are you thinking around him?
Yeah, he played. He didn't play on the weekend because our VFL guys had a bye. He played the week before, so it's a matter of how much footy he's played. That was his first game the week before, so unfortunately we had a bye on the weekend, which wasn't ideal for him. So we'll just see what his progress looks like this week. We're really happy with Peter Laddams on the weekend. Thought he was terrific. And so can he come in at some point and we can play both? Is something we're considering, whether that's this week, whether he's had enough under his belt, we're not quite sure just yet.
Just with Paddy as well, how's he going? What's the latest with him?
Yeah, he's progressing and improving every day. There's no update on anything other than that. He's just getting better every day, and that's a good sign. He's coming to the club every day, feeling better every day, and we'll still take it day by day.
I know probably not too fussed on the name of the 19th team, but the general consensus is the Tassie Devils down there. Would that be the right move, considering the history in the state of football?
You're probably right. I've got a few more things on my mind, like the Dacos boys and the Collingwood midfield, that I've sort of been thinking about a bit more than that. So I'm sure there's plenty of people that will get paid a lot of money to come up with a business plan and a recommendation of what the new names and colours should be, and I'll leave it with them.
Errol played his 50th game on the weekend, just a few weeks weeks away. I guess those two in particular, how exciting has it been to see them in their first few games and what they've done?
I look at our midfield. Our most experienced player is obviously Luke Parker, but then you're down to Callum Mills, who's only 25, and then you're into amongst those boys that have played 50 games. James Rowbottom, maybe a bit more, but those guys are 50-game players. I think they've been doing most of the things right, those young players. They've had a great start. There's a lot of responsibility on them for youngsters, and if we look at the games played, averages our boys versus Collingwood this week, there'll be a big disparity in the midfield. But they'll keep learning. They'll keep being competitive. Hopefully, we were able to play at the level that we were last year against a real high-quality, experienced midfield. But we know we have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. Young players, need to be consistent, and we're putting a lot of responsibility on those lads. And so, it's a great opportunity for those boys. Those boys you mentioned in particular are really good for young, inexperienced players, 50 gamers, 3 and 4 year players. They've been outstanding.
And you just mentioned that was playing in Collingwood midfield. Is this then a great good test to see?
I think it's one of. It's you always get tested in AFL footy. Every week you get tested. We got tested last week. We get tested this week, and it's you want to learn, be competitive, and win. And you want to get all those things every week. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes you're in opportunities like we were last week to make the most of those chances like we did, and we just fell short of that. So harsh lessons, but lessons learned anyway, and we need to keep moving forward.
You guys are the only team to stop them last year. Does that count for anything?
Yeah, we had a couple of terrific games against them here. I mean, massive crowds. I've never heard sound like it in those 2 games. It was huge, and so we were a young team last year. We had a few structural position changes since then, but still great experience for our boys to play against Collingwood with a big following. There'll be a big crowd there again this week, and our players will enjoy getting the MCG.
Last one for me was Ryan Clark get the role again. What's your thoughts?
We've got a bit of thinking to do. I mean, that's one of the options. The option is, do you try and hurt him, or do you try and stop him? And everyone has different philosophies. He's a player that can really hurt you no matter what happens. He certainly has a license to go about his business. So sometimes he can pull your structure apart as well. So we'll work on that. Hopefully, come up with a plan.